It's Monday, which means we have another Monday mailbag for the Carolina Panthers. Let's go.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. We have Mailbag Monday, another 5 fantastic questions from you guys. As always, appreciate you guys tuning into the show. Now, in the middle of Mailbag Monday, we have a lot of other stuff happening. If you are not up to speed, we have previews for the 90-man roster in progress. So offensive side of the ball, quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, all underway. We've got offensive line, wide receivers closing it out, and then we'll move on to the defensive side of the ball, getting you guys prepared for next week. So you're going to be checking the boxes, knowing who's who, what's what. And of course, as we get through the end of this, we'll do a 53-man roster projection from me initially. We also have a bonus episode talking through the changes in the coaching staff, because I don't think you can talk about the defensive side of the ball without talking about some of the changes. So that's coming. And of course, the mailbag, folks, we do not stop. Now, if you wonder, like, what is the moniker of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast? What do we want to be known for? Well, we're pushing ourselves to be the #1 Carolina Panthers podcast. And that's not just me saying it. It's me putting in the work and effort and time and just appreciating you guys for tuning in. So we're going to continue to pump out content. No breaks in between. And it's about to really pick up here, of course, with the season. But without further ado, guys, it's time to take a look at the mailbag. As always, you can find me on social media at 2 shows, 1 host. The easiest version, of course, YouTube, although some days we get a bunch of comments. It can be harder to keep up there, but you can get us on YouTube. Spotify comments, probably the easiest. Yes, you can comment on a Spotify podcast episode, or Instagram. Like, that's usually, hey, you can find me on Instagram. X should work as well. It just depends on if I can see it or not. Sometimes I don't get at or mentions. But anyways, without that said, let's get right into the mailbag, which you guys are here for. First 2 questions actually tied together. So this came directly from Instagram. Teddy. Shout out to Teddy. So good question here, and it's going to feed into the second question. So I don't know if fans are just on the same wavelength or what, but it works out. Taylor Moton's future. So he said, what are the chances we try to trade Taylor Moton this season? We are going to be looking at extending Icky if he continues to improve, and it would just make sense to invest in our future on the line instead of keeping Moton. So I think the chances of trading Taylor Moton, and this is just me, it's probably close to 0%, 0 to 5%. There's a few reasons why. I don't think it's a bad thing to throw it out and consider. But number one, like, he's on the last year of his contract. So that's your first issue. Like, if you're going to trade him, somebody that wants to pick him up is going to want to have, reassurance that if they bring him in, he's going to be there for the next couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years. You also have the age factor in place. He is getting a little bit older. That's not to say he can't play another 3-4 years, but at least where things sit. And money. That's probably another big piece of this, is the amount of money that he's owed, $30 million. He's one of the highest paid players when you look at the annual breakdown in the NFL, likely one of the highest paid offensive linemen, hands down, like just the nature of where it shakes out. So I don't think you're going to have another team that wants to take on that contract. So for me, I think it's difficult to imagine it. You also have the injury factor, which I know for the most part, he has been an Iron Man for most of his career. Last year, we saw an injury bug pop up a little bit. I even think the Panthers were a little bit concerned. So I think, and I say concerned because they were were talks of a right tackle potentially through the draft if one fell, if it was the perfect fit. It didn't pan out. They were bringing guys in for visits. So it was on their radar, just didn't happen this year. So I don't think odds are that you're going to be able to find a suitable candidate that's going to take on the contract, that's going to want to do all those things. So you kind of just let this thing ride out for this. If the Panthers had extended him, if they had restructured his contract, added a year or two on, something to make it more favorable, there'd be a possibility. But I do think the second part of your question, which is extending Icky, guess what, folks? That kind of leads into the next part. Also, appreciate that. Guys, feel free to reach out. Ikem Ekwonu's fifth-year option in future. I told you these things are aligned. So the Panthers picked up Ikem Ekwonu's fifth-year option, which is for next year. What's your assessment of his development so far? And do you think he's truly secured the long-term left tackle spot? What does he need to show this year to earn a significant extension beyond 2026? So I'll actually start with the last part. What does he need to do to earn a significant extension? I think that this extension could happen sooner than later, meaning I don't know that the Panthers wait until next offseason. I don't know that they let him play on the fifth-year option. It could happen sooner than later. And the benefit of doing that for the Carolina Panthers is the cap hit and structuring. Like if you guys go out to these cap sites, you can see a lot of them are structured from a cap perspective to have a pretty low number in the first and second year. So gives Panthers some flexibility. So I think there's a chance it happens sooner rather than later. But going back to this, what's your assessment of his development? So we know first year seemed okay, not great. Like a little bit of questioning there. Second year was a big regression for the most part. And then this past year, he finally took another step forward. So it's kind of been a wave and similar to, thinking about Bryce Young, managing multiple offenses, what that's look like. They played to his strengths this past year. So he's really good run blocker, getting better as a pass blocker. And you got to have a solid left tackle if you're going to be a Super Bowl team, in my opinion. You got to have a very solid foundation on the left side of the ball because that's your quarterback's blind side, which we know. Do I think he's secure the long term? I do. And I think the front office has talked about it that way. It's one of those situations where maybe he's not an all-pro. Maybe I don't even like to talk about Pro Bowlers anymore because Pro Bowlers to me is just a different thing. Like everything that's changed. Pro Bowl terminology really doesn't do much for me, an accolade as a Pro Bowler. So for me, like, is he going to be a top 10, top 15 left tackle for the next 3 or 4 years? I think that's maybe what you would shoot for in the 15 range. As long as he continues to make improvements, I think the Panthers do give him a nice little extension to keep him around. And the benefit of all of this is the continuity. Like just having the continuity there, that's the biggest driver in this. So I am excited about Ikem Ekwonu and his fifth-year option. Now, that doesn't mean if for some reason the wheels fall off, he looks like he did in year 2 more so than year 3, and or a little bit of what we saw in year 1, we're going to have an issue. Like, hands down, we are going to have an issue. So I'm curious to see how that ends up playing out, but I do think that at least right now he's checking the boxes and it may happen pretty soon. All right. Man, this one was a doozy. Fan engagement and the Bank of America Stadium vibe. Panthers fans have expressed a desire to take back BOA. I hope so. From opposing fan bases. What role do you think winning plays in this? And beyond that, what can the organization do to truly re-energize the fan base and make home games a dominant environment again in 2025? Winning plays every bit a part of this. Unfortunately, the Carolina Panthers are not one of those historic franchises. I mean, just the nature of not being around, like a Green Bay, 49ers, one of those Dallas Cowboys, one of those Pittsburgh Steelers, perennial teams that no matter what, the fans are going to show up and show out and in sport. Just the nature of who the Carolina Panthers are. the fact that Charlotte is very accessible in almost any airport across the country, easy to get into, easy to get out. I mean, not necessarily the airport itself to Charlotte Douglas, like that's a different thing. But as far as getting here to the city, relatively speaking, easy to get in and out. So you're naturally going to have a bunch of opposing fans, like thinking about Buffalo coming in and taking over. So winning plays an important part for this if you are the Carolina Panthers. We have seen that when winning happens, that fans show up. Unfortunately, this just isn't a team and a fan base and organization when you have a lot of people that are transplanted here that aren't Carolinas, that don't have those roots. And the Panthers are a young team. You're not going to have the same thing as the Washington Commanders. Again, just naming off teams that have had those fan bases there. You're not going to have a situation like that. So you do have to win to get people in the seats. Otherwise, you do have the bandwagons that hop on whatever it is that's happening in that city. Coming in, you think about Kansas City Chiefs, like the number of KC jerseys there, the number of Kansas City fans in attendance. That's what happens in Charlotte. So I do think winning is a big part of it. Beyond that, going back to this, you said, what can the organization do to re-energize the fan base? Well, re-energizing the fan base, that's hard to say, but I think they're doing the right things, relatively speaking, when it comes to trying to get some of the legends involved, biggest one being Cam Newton. And you think about this, the state of where the Panthers are and have been, Cam Newton was a big part of it, seeing them kind of make amends in their relationship and bring him back into the fold. Now, bringing Cam out isn't going to solve everything, but I do think that is a piece of this. I just don't know that there's a button you can flip right now to re-energize the fan base and or to make home games a dominant environment. It's going to take winning for this for the city of Charlotte to believe and to show out and to be there and to wear game day jerseys and be in attendance. They have got to win games. And so you start to build the culture that you're doing now, and the front office and David Tepper take a step back, which they have. That's another way that you can get fans re-energized, is just simply knowing that, hey, maybe we are headed in the right direction. It's going to take a little bit of time, but things are getting there. All right. This one's a little far out looking, but we can still talk about it. So running back usage when Jonathan Brooks returns. I almost punted this one because this is next year-ish, and I cannot tell you what it looks like, but we can discuss a few things because I think it all ties together. So it says Jonathan Brooks is recovering from injury with the addition of Rico Dowdle and the return of Raheem Blackshear and the drafting of Etienne. I'm throwing that in there. How do you see the Panthers running back committee shaking out once Brooks is healthy? I mean, unfortunately, I don't know how tuned in this person is to the Carolina Panthers, but Jonathan Brooks is going to miss this entire season. So I that part is like we're talking next year. However, I do think we can kind of still talk about what it's going to look like this year, and then maybe the potential for next year if Brooks is in the mix. What it says, the follow-up says, will it be a true hot hand approach, meaning feeding the hot hand, the player that's doing well, or will it be have one back emerge as the clear leader or the clear lead in this case? So Brooks next year. Now, I do think the Panthers kind of showed their hand a little bit in drafting Etienne this year, but I think that's primarily because there really is no answer as who's the number two after Dowdle goes. Like, there's a chance Dowdle stays if things just pan out and this is a great relationship and he likes being here and he performs well, but it's a one-year contract, at least at the moment. And, next year you're going to get Brooks, but I do think, like, no matter what, suffering an ACL tear twice is hard to overcome. Now, I think he is going to get there, but I just don't know what version he's going to be. And this is just taking a long time. You're practically missing 2 full seasons and finally getting into the swing of things in your third year and really feeling like a rookie, like third year in the league, and you finally are getting some touches. So I think the Panthers showed us what they thought about and wanted to go ahead and buy some insurance. It was like, hey, you know what? We know that there's going to be a flood here wherever in a week. and and somebody just came around and said, you know what, we're going to offer you flood insurance, even though they know that's happening. So it seems like that's what the Panthers did in my book by drafting Etienne. It's also just been as we've seen, a Canales approach tied to what Pete Carroll. Now, it's not saying that they're apples to apples, but similar to kind of what they did there in Seattle. So that's how I see it playing out. And as far as like how I think it's going to be, I've talked about this a little bit as well. I think 65% Chuba, 35% to Dowdle, with maybe 10% going into Etienne. And I just don't know that Blackshear even makes the roster unless it's a returner. I don't think he's going to be playing or making any impact in the run game. All right, here we go. Last one. The defensive end pass rush production. The Panthers drafted Nick Scorton and Princely Umanmielen, and also signed Turk Wharton and Bobby Brown III, also Pat Jones. And I'm just add that in there for folks that are reading this. So while the interior defensive line looks stronger, you think about, I'm adding flavor to this. Thinking about Derek Brown, A'Shawn Robinson, all those guys, Bobby Brown, like it's mentioned. Are you confident in the edge rushers to consistently generate pressure on opposing quarterbacks? Who steps up to replace the production loss from Clowney's departure? Well, again, I'm going to do something similar that I did to the other. Who steps up to replace the production loss from Jadeveon Clowney? I mean, Clowney was good, but there's not like this team in general just didn't get to the quarterback, 5.5 sacks-ish. So from a production standpoint, you really didn't lose that much where things sit right now. But we'll get back into the first part of this, and we will talk about who will replace it. So I'll answer it. So am I confident in the edge rushers to consistently generate pressure? No, I'm not. I'm excited that the fact that the Panthers went out and got Scorton. They went out and got Umanmielen. I like the work ethic of both of those guys. I like what you've added on the interior to make it easy for those guys as well. I like Pat Jones. I like the upside of DJ Wonnum when healthy. But I don't know, because Ejiro Evero's still your DC. And I think a lot of this is going to fall on AC Carter, who's the outside linebackers coach. So I think now we look at this and say, well, how well can this guy coach these guys up? How much more can he get out of them? The scheme itself and what we do is not going to change that much. We saw what Brian Burns, who was still a good football player, looked like in this with Ejiro Evero. So I don't know. I'm just not that confident. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say I'm like a 5. This is really because I want to see it happen. Like I don't want to say prove me wrong, but prove that you can do it. I don't know that they consistently can do it. But I will tell you, I'm confident in the fact that we have added all this on the interior, ends, nose tackle, got those spots locked up, and you do add in this younger talent around it and say, hey, you know what, just go back, get to the quarterback, see what we can do, see what we can generate. So I do like that. As far as replacing production, I will answer that question. I think, and we've kind of talked about this, Princely and Scorton, I think, later in the season, we'll see a lot more of them. I think there's potential one of those guys starts still. It's early for me, though, so I can't call it right now. As far as production, I am looking for Pat Jones. I do think we're going to get some decent usage out of him. And I think if you are talking about truly replacing someone, that Pat Jones might be the guy. So anyways, folks, that's going to do it for today's episode. Appreciate you guys always tuning in. This is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.